Hi there everyone! Now if you've been paying attention you would know that I got a massive box of really awesome Thomas stuff, most of it from Japan. Now, I said I was going to go through these bit by bit, and there's some really weird stuff in there, but I thought, you know what, we better stick with something that we kind of understand. So, here you can see laid out in front of me almost all of the parts of the Wind-Up Thomas series that I got from that big bag of mixed things. Now, there's actually one item missing from this, and probably the most interesting item of all, but I'm not showing that right now because I've got to do a couple of little things to it before it comes onto the camera. So, before we look at that, we'll look at the other stuff in here, and hopefully we can make some really interesting comparisons to not only the Play-Rail version that came in little capsules in Australia, but also the version that was sold in the blister packs, which I've shown you in other reviews. So, let's get to it. Now, what I want to take spotlight of is Molly here. Now, Molly has actually got a bent winder. As you can see, her winder is bent, and that means that she doesn't actually drive freely, and so that annoyed me a little bit. So I'm going to, before I actually review her, you can see there's just a couple of things I wanted to say. I'm actually going to try to take her apart and see if I can fix that. Now, I was going to do this off camera, and I thought, you know what, let's just have a go at doing like this kind of shot on camera. I don't know whether it's going to work, because I haven't tried to do one of these before. But let's see if it's going to... There's shadows and the light. My light's just not in the right place. Let's just see. I have pre-loosened this screw because it was taking a very long time to get out. And I was worried I was going to destroy the thread, which I have actually done on my Thomas Mauchler model. But that's another story for another day. Oh, there you go. And it's out. And... oh, if we just unclip Molly at the back here. Molly is officially, well, naked. If you can call it that. I don't know if you can. Maybe you can. If you haven't seen the inside of a wind-up locomotive before, then this is what it looks like. I haven't actually seen one either. It's actually very small considering the actual body size of the locomotive. Interesting to note, there's a couple of little plastic hangy down bits, I don't know what you'd call them scientifically, that kind of hold this in position while it's in there. But it becomes quite clear now, you can see that Molly's winder is bent, and that restricts the movement of the side rod and thus the wheel, so she gets stuck. So what I'm going to try and do is, now that I've got it out, I can hopefully bend it back into position without breaking it. So let's just see if that's going to work. Alright, so I've given this little bit Molly engine a little bit of repair. As you can see, it's still a little bit bent, but not quite to the extent that it was before. Now, this hopefully will mean that I can free up this drive axle winder thing so that it's free of her pistons and so that she should run freely. What's also interesting to note with these is that if I just put this camera down, I really should put it on a tripod. I'm working on it, okay? Anyway. And we open it up like so. You can actually even take this out further. And this little motor section here kind of comes out again, which is odd. And the only thing securing these wheels in, if I just spin this around and put that back into position, as you can see. The only thing that's stopping these front wheels from collapsing, which has actually happened on Elizabeth. You can see there's a little pin here. Just, if I get my little pointing implement, there's a little tiny bit of plastic, which if I just turn it up that way, you can see where you can't see the axle, there's a tiny little clip there, which I'm assuming would let you unclip the wheels completely from the chassis, which is quite helpful, and you never know, might actually happen with this Molly if I decide that that broken coupling hook is getting too much of a problem. So now let me just see if I can put it back together, and we'll see if that's actually solved the issue with... And there you go, with a little bit of tweaking, Molly is back up running properly. Now we can look at her as an actual model. She's quite a nice rendition of the character Molly. Her face is a lot more manageable than, say for example, the Trackmaster face, and I think her face here, especially if we get in the light like that, actually looks a lot more like the character than what I would say is almost horrifyingly bad Trackmaster face. It's a little bit too big considering the original size of her face. She had quite a large black rim, but I do like that they have kept the black rim in this design. So you kind of get the idea, it's a combination between her original face, which was going to take up the whole of her face, if you look up pictures of that on the Thomas Wiki. But you can also see that it's also left that little black rim, and I appreciate that. She's also got the famed splash of white, as Leo Kim Video would say, on her running board, which is quite interesting considering that she's not a main character, and that Thomas doesn't have this, but then a character like Molly, who's really not a main character at all, and has only appeared in very few episodes, actually has that splash of white. It's actually a bit more grey, probably, than so much white, especially when you compare it to the bright white of her roof. But it is nice to see that on there. You've also got a bit of gold detailing here for her, I don't know what you call those things. The part that joins the boiler steam thing to the buffer beam. Someone I don't know, hopefully know what that's called. So it's nice to see they've done that. They've even put the black, that's printing. That black there is printing for where her wheels go. Now this version of her doesn't actually have any stickers. Whoever the previous owner was didn't put stickers on there. And also, as you can see, broke the coupling. They also, I assume when they bent this, broke off the other hook that holds in her winder, which is why she's so easy to take apart. And so while she kind of like does a bit of a Duncan rock and roll kind of thing when she's moving along, but it doesn't worry me. We can see that she's 2008. And if we come over to her tender, it's also quite nice. They've done a quite interesting little gold thing. You can see it's a bit scratched on this version. But they've done an interesting gold kind of surrounding finish on that. They've done a very good job in representing these things. I have no idea what they were meant to be in her actual tender, but these things. The coal bunker, and then it seems like a dog has almost also chewed this. Or maybe it was just a small child. They're very similar, dogs and small children. Has chewed this a little bit, but it still works, still functions, and the same goes for this. It's also been a bit chewed and extended. But again, despite these couple of problems, because of the way that hole in her coupler actually ends up hanging together, she actually stays together quite well. I'm yet to give her a proper test on a layout of the wind-up track, but just as a locomotive, she seems to do okay. Now, what you're actually looking at now are the 3 Jameses that I got in this series, and they're all a little bit different, and they're all a little bit strange. So, let's take a look. The first thing that really jumps out at me is these ones here with the surprise James. Now, they're, I'm assuming, meant to be based on the James Goes Buzz Buzz episode, where James gets attacked by a bee, and there's a very strange animation watercolor thing. The first thing I noticed about these is, not only do they not have a wind-up, but the wheels are grey. And that strikes me as a little odd, considering the non-winder Henry and other non-winding engines have wheels that match their body colour, and this James doesn't. Another difference is this one hasn't got any stickers applied to it at all, and the little window stickers have actually come off. But again, it's got that same greyness about it, which is kind of odd. I find that a little bit strange. That first of all, they wouldn't put the winder in, and then second of all, that they wouldn't bother with making the wheels red and the right colour at least. The stickers on this are also a bit strange. I'll pull out another version of James. So by the power of film, I pulled up another James, and straight away you can see that the colour is different on the stickers. And there's a reason for that. The stickers on all the one-ups that I've got so far have been clear, and then they've just had the black imprints on them, or the yellow in the case of the 5, and you stick them over the top of just the plain red. Whereas these stickers were clearly already coloured red, which is why they look a bit incongruous with the rest of the red colouring scheme. So that's a little bit strange to me. Also interesting, if you look at the profile of James's face, right there, you can see it's very, very flat, compared to his smiling face, which is actually quite round. So that's also strange. It almost looks like they've hit him with a steamroller, and then they've like plucked his nose out. However, I do appreciate the design. The weirdest James is this one, which is the normal face. And then it's got these wheels, the unpowered grey wheels, and then the red sticker. So I have no idea what this James was a part of. If anyone knows, was it a part of like a certain series? Or, because I know the capsule sets in Japan come in like series with different themes, as I showed in my other reviews of the Japanese ones. I don't understand what this James is doing. I really don't. It feels really out of place and really off. And this is still definitely by far my favourite James. But James wasn't the only character that turned up in doubles. There's also Percy. And he again is a bit different. Both of these ones have had some sticker damage. You can see that these Percys both have the missing decals for the view holes, so the drivers are going to have a very hard time. This Percy's face has got that crooked syndrome. I talked about that with the last Percy that you can see here. And I almost start to wonder, was it designed to be crooked? I don't know. It seems a bit strange. But apart from that, he is identical to my previously reviewed Percy. Although, I've just noticed this as I say this now. Have a look at that. There you go. This one's got the Diesel 10 style of wheel, which, as I've explained, doesn't work on the TOMY track very well because of it. Without the grip, it doesn't go around the corners. And if you look at the years that these were made, they were made exactly the same year. Or at least the copyright says that they were. So that's very weird. Because I don't know why they would choose these wheels. These wheels are much better and actually grip the tracks. So that strikes me as strange. And then this Percy's got some more quirks going on because he's got the spiky teeth wheels. But his eyes are facing a different way. He does have a slightly different expression. I don't know whether that's a factory error or he's meant to have a different expression. And then someone, the previous owner, has attacked him with something. I feel like that's some kind of, like, it's not a texture. I feel like it's like gum or something. But I haven't been able to get it out. I don't know, I actually kind of like it. It looks a bit evil. Maybe Percy's been possessed by the demons. I don't know. I might not actually clean this one up, which probably sounds really disgusting. And that's probably a customs thing. Customs probably should have picked that up when it came from Japan to America to Australia. But anyway, that's kind of weird. More weirdness. He's got a little bit more chipping on him than some of the other ones. But again, so as I said, these Japanese, this is just getting right into the beginning. They get very weird. The next pair of doubles is Toby. Now, as far as I can tell, these Tobys are exactly the same as the previous Tobys, except for the fact that their stickers, I don't know, don't seem to be as even and nice as mine. I don't know whether that's because they weren't applied at the factory. This one seems alright. But this one doesn't seem to have as nice stickers. But apart from that, they seem very, very much the same. If we just grab out one of my other Tobys, we can see that in terms of looks, stylistically they're very similar. But there is a key difference again. Look at Toby that came in the blister pack that I paid about $5 for, if I remember correctly. So, as you can see, we look at this and we can see that there's a difference where, despite being cosmetically the same, the 2006 Toby, the blister one, has the spiked wheels, where the 2005 one, a year earlier, has these rounded wheels. So it gets me thinking, if they changed it for Toby between these years and these years, why didn't they change it for Percy? Interesting. Interesting. Maybe someone else has these wind-ups where they don't have the nice gear systems. I don't know. Let's keep moving on. Now, I must say there are 3 things in the collection that made me a little bit sad. These are the 3 things that made me a little bit sad. First of all, you get one of the twins. I have no way of knowing which one is which, because I don't have a tender with a number on it, and I don't have any nameplates, so I have no idea if this is Donald or Douglas. It's one of them. Again, it's got that very nice design, no stickers. I don't think it requires any stickers. You've got the extra painted on bits. Again, with the grey wheels, and this one actually has no motor. But he's from 2002, and unfortunately, he doesn't have a tender, which is really disappointing, because he's a very nice model, and I do quite like the way they did his face on this one. The same goes for Henry. Now this is Henry. This Henry was actually released in the Australia Gacha in the first series, also without a winding mechanism, and I really, really want to get him, and unfortunately he was the only item that I didn't get from that series. I got every single other item in that series except him, which was really annoying. But it's interesting to see that the Japanese version doesn't have the winder in it either. So you can see that he's got the green wheels, and he's from 2003, with stickers now. Stickers are on this Henry, as opposed to the printedness of the other Henrys. Not sure if the stickers applied quite right, but anyway. So yeah, there you go, that's Henry there. He's very nice. He's a very nice looking model, I must say. Proportionally a bit strange, as with all the wind-ups, their faces are way too big. But is good. It'd be good if you had a tender. And the last one that makes me cry is Hero, because I haven't seen him before. And he's actually a really, really impressively designed wind-up locomotive. He is obviously much newer. I don't have a date on him anywhere that I can find. But He's got the spike design. He's got the silver. You can see here, this one is one that I'm really excited about, and it's so disappointing that his tender wasn't included in this collection. Whoever sold this collection to Magic Railroad decided that tenders weren't important, apparently. Because he's really nicely designed. There's so many intricate details. The headlamp, the different coupling that they printed on here. They've actually printed on his knuckle coupler, which has, you know, logistical errors with the idea of the Thomas Railway. But anyway, ignoring that fact, they've got where his cylinders would be if they actually connected up. They've got whistles, domes, these stickers which clearly don't belong here, but don't really need to take them off. He's just a very well-designed wind-up locomotive, and it's so disappointing that I don't have the rest of him. But I guess that doesn't mean he can be hiding in a shed somewhere, so we don't have to see his tenders. Kind of the opposite of what they did with the Flying Scotsman in the TV series, I guess. But anyway, he's a very, very nice one. So these three were the kind of the tragic stories of this collection. But there's more! Continuing on with tragic stories, there's this here, which is Mighty Mac, as you can see. Now, I don't mind the fact it doesn't have any stickers. Unfortunately, his roof is missing. Yeah, he doesn't have a roof. But I guess we can just ignore that, right? Just pretend that he does have a roof. They've done a great job with the faces, actually. Even got a little bit of the flick of hair on Mighty, I believe. Mighty's the one with the hair, and Mac is the one with the freckles. But someone's probably going to correct me because I'm probably wrong. What's weird about Mighty Mac is that I think this is maybe how the roof got broken. He actually, if you look at the bottom, you go, this one's got the winding. Fair enough, this one doesn't. It's got a coupling. But that one's got a coupling loop. And if you actually do this, you can actually do this, and, you get two halves of a joined locomotive, which is kind of strange. You get this part that's got its own coupling and can kind of go along by itself. If we didn't know it was a steam engine, we'd almost think that was a diaphragm to connect to modern day passenger coaches so that the passengers could walk in between. And then you get the other half, which is kind of useless because it's got this massive hollow bit at the back. And then it's got this coupling so he can kind of like, yeah, I don't know. That's weird. I mean, I appreciate the way they designed it, but the fact that they actually can come apart, they didn't just glue them together or something, strikes me as a little odd. And I'm thinking that that's maybe how they stay together, is that this roof part is what holds them together, and what happened was some previous owner was playing with them, and then you can see this one's 2009, so it's quite recent. Which I think is about the time that this guy was introduced. He was about Series 10, wasn't he, or something? Something like that. But anyway, he's quite nice. And then the other sad story is Skarloey, who I have reviewed previously, because I do have him in the normal version. And this is meant to be like a red, but it's definitely pink. Yeah, he's missing his funnel. I think, to be honest, I think these metallic ones look quite stupid, to be honest. I mean, I appreciate the metallic other series, but this one is just not nice, because it's just pink. And I don't think that cuts it, which, as you'll see in a minute, there is actually another metallic item that is red, that stayed red. And I think this just going pink is just a little bit, no, doesn't buy it for me. And I have to say, even as a collector, I'd much prefer the normal version to the metallic version, but that's probably because I want to feature the normal version in stories, as opposed to just collect them on the shelf. So, these two are a little bit more to the fail. Mighty Mac's also metallic, if you didn't notice, but I think his metallic is a bit nicer. So, speaking of metallics, we've got a metallic Bertie. Now you can see he's a little bit redder. If I put them side by side especially, you can see that Skarloey's a lot paler and he's a bit redder. I actually quite like him. He's got an odd design, again from 2009, so probably the same series. He's got a bit of an odd design. I mean, he's got the splash of white around his face, which is nice things, but he just doesn't look like, feel like a wind-up model. And the only reason I actually know that he's a wind-up model is because I've seen him on the pictures for the third and the fourth and fifth of the Play Rail series, and also this little connection at the back is very similar to this connection, if you look at it, the way it's designed. So that was kind of a telltale sign for me. But otherwise, without a winding motor, he looks very plain, and not necessarily part of the wind-up range, which is odd, because then we have here Elizabeth, and she is very ornately designed locomotive, do I call her that? Tractor, I guess I probably should call her that. She's from 2003. I feel like this was maybe the golden era of these, except of course that these wheels weren't designed well. And she, very well designed, ornate, no stickers, all printed, has a wind-up motor underneath. She had a problem with her wheels that kind of collapsed. I think the little clip that holds her wheels in might have broken off. But her winder does still work. And she does have a little coupling on the back, so she can pull stuff along. So she's quite cool. And her face is just very nice. It's probably a little bit too smiley for my liking, but you know what? I don't really mind. So, in summary, she is very nice compared to this Bertie, which is nice, but I feel like if they're going to give Elizabeth a very secondary character compared to Bertie a wind-up motor, I think Bertie could have done with a... And then every time you think I'm finished, I just keep going. Here is Duncan. He's also something very exciting. I'm very happy to collect Duncan. Expanding the narrow gauge is good. I've just kind of got 2.5, if you count mounting back as half an engine. He works. He's got the new design with the clips, spiky wheels so that they work. He's 2009 again. Just around his time of the reintroduction, I would assume. He's got a very devilish face. It's very like, it's not quite Duncan, in a sense that it doesn't necessarily resemble his TV series face, but it looks really cool. He's kind of sneaky and evil and all those nice things, and he's got that signature long funnel. So despite the fact that everything else has been squashed up, he's got that nice funnel, and he's also got no stickers. These are all printed again, so very good to see. Last but not least, there was a Thomas in this collection. Where would this collection be without Thomas? As you can see, this is the same as the Australian gacha version of Thomas. It's got that same buggy-eyed face. This one's got a bit more poppy-outy eyes. They're kind of like a little bit derpy and a little bit not quite right. What's interesting about this one is it's got the wind-up motor, but it's got the grey wheels again. And there's no pistons on them, so that strikes me as odd. Again, I don't understand what series this is from. And then you look at the back and you go, wow. Wowie. 2000. 14 years old. Prospectively, this model is 14 years old. And when I see that, I go, okay, I understand why it looks so strange. And again, you can see the sticker here is not clear, it's blue. But it's very, very, very nice. And it's very cool to have a Thomas that's that old in the wind-up collection. And that he survived that well and still he's got a bit of a kick about him. Which makes you wonder why in 2012, when they started selling the other wind-up series, they're still using that face for Thomas. And in fact, even in 2013, when I found those Japanese ones, they're still using this face. Slightly different design here. And he still doesn't have that splash of white. It's still not there. But it wasn't just engines that I got in this set. There were actually some carriages too. And they're also a little bit strange. So you can see I also got an assortment of freight locomotives. Now, if we just pull these aside, I've got 2 of these boxcars. Now, these are quite, stock standard boxcars, and then, no, they're not stock standard boxcars. Look at that. Look at that coupling. Isn't it strange? Yeah, I know, it's strange. It's very strange. It kind of pivots and jiggles, and it's like a hook. And it just feels and looks so incredibly fragile. I can't get a date on these, but it's so much more fragile. And they said this one's the same, it's got that same thing, and also the loop at the back is different. If you compare that to loop where it's completely sealed together, whereas on the other hand, if we get an engine like Molly and get her tender, you can see that's actually bigger and it's got a little split in it for whatever reason. I think it's to make it stronger, maybe, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's strange. These two are very strange, especially when, see, this is exactly the same design, looks exactly the same. Except that it's got this face on it, which I'm quite happy to get. It's quite a nice truck face. But then it's got that newer design of coupling with the older design now, where this jiggles around, it's not fixed in the middle, design of hook, loop at the back. So that's odd. That strikes me as quite strange. I'm assuming this one's later than these ones. But I do like this design of the truck. It's got a lot of details on them, which you could easily relief out with a permanent marker or something. You've even got fake like trucks there, and even buffers, which is quite nice. So this is actually a very nice truck. I'm just confused with the way they designed it. Another thing I've got is 2 of these guys. Now, I've already talked about these because I've got one of the normal versions, the Australian versions of this one. And again, this one's got the new coupling, which as I said, I don't really like. I think it's a lot weaker in design. And the special wagon that I haven't showed you yet because it's very special, actually has this coupling. It was broken. I've glued it back together. I don't know how successful that's going to be, but we'll have to wait and see. So they do go together, but This is a Metallic again series SC Ruffy, and he's quite cool. They did a good job with the face, as you can see. I just got to focus really well on that face. He's got that newer design coupling. He's 2008. Now, I'm assuming by the little recesses you can see there in the walls that he was meant to have collapsible walls, which is awesome, to simulate him falling apart. Clearly, the walls are also like the tenders of some of the other locomotives and didn't come across the oceans that are between Japan, America, and Australia. But I think this works perfectly fine as a flatbed. I think you could say Scruffy, you know, when he was rebuilt, became a flatbed, and I actually like the metallic design on him, so he's definitely a winner. And then there's this truck, which is it's a crate car. The crates don't come off, which is a little bit disappointing. But it's still quite an interesting design. I haven't seen really anything like it in the television series, but I guess that's a natural progression of the railway rolling stock. And then last but certainly not least is one of Percy's, I'm going to say in inverted commas there, Sodor mail cars. It's a nice design. It's just the red coach, which I've talked about in another video. You can go check that out to see what it looks like. It's just that being recolored with that, obviously the different coupling design. I can't get a year on this one either. Nope, TOMY, made in China. But I have to say the color on this is quite off. It's definitely a brown, not a red like it should be in the TV series. So it's a bit strange, but I do appreciate the addition of that truck. Now in front of me here you can see I've set up a special layout, and this is to show you the very special truck which I was talking about. And it's right here. First of all, it's not really very assuming, until of course you take a closer look and you realise that not only is it much heavier than a normal wagon, but it's got a switch on the top. And that's because if we look on the bottom, yes, that's right, this is a battery-powered, motorized, wind-up rolling stock piece. Now, this came with a battery that didn't work. It takes one of those little N-type batteries, which were really hard to find. Even in Australia, I had to order them online. And then it didn't work at the start, and I just kind of fiddled with it and kind of jiggled it around, and now it works again. So I think it must be a wire loose in there, but that's alright, easily fixed. It spins quite fast. If we take a close look at its wheels, it's got the old-style wheel, which is a little bit disappointing, as you'll soon see in a minute. It's a very nice-looking wagon, I have to say, and they've done quite a good job of covering up the battery component. It does have a hook coupler on the front, which is actually broken. You can kind of see there that shiny bit is the seam where it broke. And now I have glued it back together, but I'll be interested to see how long that glue actually lasts. So that's actually a very nice item here, and the motorized function is very cool. So I've set up a little loop here. I've got curves, I've got straights, I've got the turntable, which is always an issue for wind-up engines alike, and I've also got the heel, which is also quite a challenge. So now let's just see, if I put this on the track, get it going, see how far we can get. See, it kind of gets around the curves there, struggles a little bit on the turntable, fees itself out, goes around the curve. Nope. As I've talked about in previous reviews, without the extra cog in the wheels, these simply can't climb hills. And that's a little bit sad, but it's also just a design feature, and I think, because as you can see, this is 2002, so again, this is 12 years old, this little battery-powered item, or up to 12 years old, and I think this must have been before they introduced this style of track, and probably before the hill track, which of course then led to the redesign, which we saw in about 2009-ish, as you can see on the Duncan, which we've already looked at, to these more toothed wheels. So I'll take this out, and we'll see if we can get it running with some wagon. There you go, everyone. You can see now I've got this running with an unpowered James and two other wagons. And after removing the turntable and putting these extra straight bits in between the curves, he's actually running quite well. Now, it does struggle around the corners, but I think because of its extra weight, because it is quite heavy, even without the new tyres, it does manage to grip okay. This seems to be about the extent of weight you can put on it before it starts to struggle. So that's one engine in front, and then 3 wagons behind it. But in terms of actual performance, for what it is, it's quite a cool little item. In terms of floor running as well, you can see that it does run even on a smooth floor. It's kind of going around in circles now, but I think if I straighten it out, it'll... No, go back into a curve again, there you go. But it does run reasonably well. Just on that, and if you can knock James around, he'll take control of which way the train's actually going to go. So this item here is definitely the jewel in the crown of my wind-up collection at the moment. It's a very cool piece, and a very, as far as I can tell, rare piece as well. And something really strange from the wind-up railway. But in summary, that's my latest installment of my wind-up review. That's all I've got time for. Don't forget to check out Stories of World War III on all multiple online resellers to help support TrainzXtreme and support me buying new cool stuff to show you on YouTube. And, as always, thanks for watching. That's all I've got time for from TrainzXtreme.